You might have a business idea that you want to bring to life, and you want to bring it to life through a company. But how do you form a company in business? What is the process like? What are the procedures that someone goes through or rather follows when forming a company? Hi, my name is Jeff Care and welcome to Imagine Business. Today we are going to be talking about how to form a company or the process of forming a company. Welcome to today's video. Today we are going to be talking about the process of forming a company or the formation of a company in business. Now, there are several procedures or other steps that someone is supposed to go through legally before you can begin operating a company in form of business. We've been talking about the different forms of business ownership. We talked about sole proprietorship. We talked about limited liability companies. We talked about partnership, and we talked about cooperatives. But under the limited liability company, I got a question and somebody was asking, what about a WLL, which is basically a form of limited liability company that is called with limited liability. So basically with limited liability, if I can just shed some light in it, is a form of limited liability company basically that operates in countries that follow the Islamic laws. So it's technically, I would say, a limited liability company. It enjoys all the privileges, all the characteristics, all the advantages and disadvantages of any normal limited liability. The only restriction is, or rather the only outstanding characteristic or factor is the fact that it operates in countries or nations that follow the Islamic State. So what happens in a WLL or a with limited liability company? Only a few people are allowed to operate certain businesses. And these entities or other people that have been allowed to operate certain businesses in these countries conform to the business laws and restrictions that operate in every other business, and also have their own set of kind of guidelines and rules and regulations that have been made specifically for them. So technically that is what happens in a WLLC. Just the fact that they operate in countries that follow the Islamic laws, like the Middle East and all that, the Arabian countries and all that. The second characteristic is the fact that only few individuals are allowed to operate these kinds of businesses. Like, they're not common businesses that anybody can do or is allowed to be done by any other business person out there. So these few entities or people that have been allowed to operate these businesses are also subjected to specific rules and regulations that govern that particular kind of business that they're operating. So I would say those are the three main characteristics of a WLL, which is a with limited liability company. Can a limited liability company be owned by one person? Now, from our previous video, we talked about limited liability companies, and we say that these are companies that are formed or rather enjoy a separate legal entity from the owners or rather the members of that particular business. So yes, as a limited liability company can be owned by one person, which is technically called a single member liability company. Now, why a member? Because in limited liability companies, the owners of the business are called members. So a single member liability company is basically a company that is owned, a limited liability company that is owned by one person. So yes, it's possible for a limited liability company to be owned by one person. You don't necessarily need more than one person to have a limited liability company. However, there are different variations as to how a single member liability company operates. So in as much as it enjoys all the rights, all the I would say characteristics, advantages and disadvantages of any limited liability company or limited liability companies that are owned by more than one member, there is reasons to why somebody might opt to have a single member liability company. Remember, some of the characteristics that we mentioned about a limited liability company is the fact that you can employ people. So the same applies to single member liability companies, and it comes in this way. The fact that you can have employees, but your employees are not subjected to any equity, or rather they don't enjoy any form of partnership in your business. They are basically your employees, and that's it about it. So they don't receive any shares, they don't receive any profits, they don't share in your liability in whichever way. So all you are is a single member liability owner who has employees that don't necessarily enjoy the rights and privileges of your company. All said and done, up to this point, I wanted to just talk about those two kinds of limited liability companies, which are WLL and single member liability company. Now that that has been done, now we want to see why can someone opt to have a single member liability company instead of a sole proprietorship or a partnership kind of business. So there are several factors, but before we look at them, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe to this video if you're learning something. If you're new to this channel, this is Imagine Business. Here we talk about matters business. We shed light on different business questions and topics that will enable you make sound decisions when it comes to forming and owning a business and also running a business. So back to our question now, why would you opt to have a limited liability company, be it multi-member or single member limited liability company? So there are several factors that will determine or rather will push you to have a limited liability company from a sole proprietorship. Now, number one is the growth of your company. Remember, everybody is in business to grow, and everybody is in business to create a change and to make money. Because of that, your business will experience growth, and you might need an extra hand in managing different aspects of your business. So this is one of the factors that will make you actually want to opt to have a limited liability company as compared to a sole proprietorship or a partnership form of business. Now, number two, I would say because you want to protect your personal assets. As your business is growing, your net worth in business is also growing, and the more you grow, the more you will need access to bigger loans and to bigger financial borrowing. So because of that, it means your business will need some form of security in terms of borrowing before you are given these loans to expand or rather to reinvest in your business. So because you want to protect your property, you will opt to have a limited liability company, because with a limited liability company at this point, I know you already know because we've covered it, limited liability companies conform to separate legal entity characteristic, which basically means they can transact business on their own as a separate legal entity. They can borrow loans, they can sue somebody, and also can be sued. So because you want to protect your property, at this point, because your business is growing and needs access to bigger loans, as a way of protecting your company or your personal assets from your liabilities in business, you will opt to convert your sole proprietorship or a partnership form of business into a legal liability company. So number three, I would say another reason why you might opt to convert your business or convert your company into a limited liability company is because you foresee yourself employing or rather planning to add another member in your business in form of a partner. So it's important to note at this point that if you pick any member to help you operate a business, your business ceases to be a sole proprietorship and becomes a partnership form of business automatically. But that might not work to your advantage as compared to if it becomes a limited liability company. Why? Because in case of any liabilities that are brought about by your partner in business, if your business is in form of partnership, that means that every liability that your business suffers is what ties you down also as a business person, because you are still the face of the business. Basically, the business is you. So whatever the liabilities the business has, those are your own responsibilities. If I am your partner in business and go make a deal that brings liability to our business, then that means in a general partnership, we suffer the liabilities together, even if I went and did the deal without your own consent. If you plan to add a new member, it might be a better move to convert your company into a limited liability company as a way of protecting your personal assets being dragged into the liabilities that your company owns. Another reason that might push you to grow your business or take your business to another level into a limited liability from a partnership or a sole proprietorship is because you want to hire employees. I tend to see it as a way of protecting your business, because when you have employees, then that means your business is exposed to more risks, which means liabilities might start coming at any given point in time in your business dealings. So as a way of protecting your business, if you are looking into hiring more employees or hiring employees, you might want to consider to convert your business into a limited liability company, because that protects your business assets against any damages or against any liabilities that might be brought about by your employees. And secondly, because your business will be exposed to employment laws, which are basically laws that protect your business against, or rather in case there is a disagreement between you and your business. So in that way, as a business, when there are liabilities that are caused by your employees, it's able to handle that kind of situation because your business exists as a separate legal entity. So it means any dealing in your business by your employees is not primarily your direct dealing as an individual owner of the business, if your business is a limited liability company. So I would say those are some of the main reasons why you might opt to convert your business or scale up your business into a limited liability company. So as I said, today we are going to be talking about how to form a company. So we are going to be looking at the process, or rather the formation of a company in business. So once your business has reached to a point where you want it to proceed or move into a company and become a limited liability company, you've been operating as a sole proprietorship or a partnership form of business, but you want to scale up and become a company. So what are the procedures? So number one, I would say the first procedure as a business, you first of all need a name. So you will be required to conduct a business name search and ensure that the name that you want to register your business in, or rather the name that you want your business to be identified with, is available in the business, I would say, sector, quote unquote, is not a name that is being used by any other business out there for the sake of credibility purposes and your operations as a business. So the first procedure is to conduct a name search. And how do you conduct a name search? So different countries, different nations have regulatory bodies that are concerned with business dealings, and these regulatory bodies have most of the time websites where you can conduct a name search for your business and see if the names that you prefer your business to identify with are available for use. Now, note that even if you had a certain name that you had registered as a sole proprietor, you will need to re-register the name again, because your business is scaling up from a sole proprietor and becoming a limited liability company, or becoming a company basically. So you will need, even if you had a business name that you had registered earlier, you need to re-register the name and ensure that is not being used by any other company that was not a sole proprietor. So you might have a business name that you were using as a sole proprietor, but there's also another company that is legally a limited liability company that has the same name as your sole proprietorship business. So if you want to scale up your business and become a company, there's no way you're going to use the same name as another company that is already using the name that you thought your business owns. So that is the reason why you need to conduct a name search, a business name search, and ensure that the name you're using is not being used by any other business out there. So the second procedure, or rather the second step, I would say, you need to file articles of organization. Now, what are articles of organization? Remember, in our previous video, in a separate video, we talked about limited liability companies, and one of the characteristics was that it involves a lot of paperwork in the formation process, because there are several details that you're supposed to provide. Articles of organization are these pieces of information about your company. What is the purpose of you forming that company? Who are the members? What is the business name? Remember, we've talked about how to conduct a name search. So what is your business name as a limited liability company? What is your address? Who are the members that are coming in to own this business? So the third procedure that you need to follow when forming a company or when forming a limited liability company is you need to draft and execute an LLC operating agreement. Now, an LLC operating agreement basically is I would say some set of rules that govern the obligations and responsibility of each member of the company. So if we are forming a limited liability company and it's a multi-member limited liability company, what are the responsibilities of each and every one of you as a member or owner of the business? What am I bringing to the table? What are going to be my roles and responsibilities? How are we going to share our roles? How are we going to share our profits? And how are we going to share our loss? And in case of termination, you want to close down the business, what is your exit strategy? These are guidelines and rules that you come up with as a company that you provide to the relevant authority about how you're going to run your operations in the company. So that is what we call an LLC operating agreement. So the fourth step when forming a limited liability company, or basically any form of company in business, at this point, your company will need an employer identification number. So what is an EIN? So an EIN, or an employer identification number, is basically a number that is given to businesses for the purposes of tax filing and returns. So you will not be allowed to operate as a company if you don't have an EIN at this point. So make sure that as one of the procedures you follow, your company has an EIN. Another procedure, or rather another step into forming a business, is make sure that you have a business account, or rather make sure that you have a bank account. Why is this so? Because remember, at this point, when forming a business, or rather when forming a company, you are moving into a step where your personal finances and your personal assets are separated from those of your business. Your business will basically need an account that will be handling your business finances. So every dealing that you do as a business will be remitted in that account. And also, it also helps you to separate your personal finances from those of your business. That way, your business is able to be a separate legal entity legally than when you share an account with your business. It might be difficult for you to separate the two and know when to use what finances at what point. So you might need a separate business account. And then the last process is to make sure that you apply for legal licenses and permits that allow you to operate legally as a business, because every business requires to be in existence in any country, in any state, legally. So you will definitely need permits. You'll definitely need licenses that prove your business is legal, is registered, and you are allowed to conduct business in any country or in your area of jurisdiction. That's it for this video. I hope you are well familiar now to the process of forming a limited liability. In case you want to learn more about the other forms of businesses, sole proprietorship, partnerships, and general limited liability companies and cooperatives, I have the link in the description for that video because we already handled it. So if you've made it to this point, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Turn on the post notification bell and don't forget to share. My name is Jeff Care. See you around.